Good morning, Night City! Yesterday's body count lottery rounded out to a solid and sturdy 30. 10 out of Haywood, thanks to unabated gang wars. One officer down, so I guess you're all screwed!
Data migration to primary matrix.
Another blackout in Santo Domingo. Netrunners are at it again, poking holes in the power grid.
All of this?
It's an injury.
Cause the NCPD will not let that go. While over in Westbrook, trauma teams scraping cyber psycho victims off the pavement. And in Pacifica, well, Pacifica is still Pacifica. This has been your man, Stan. Join me for another day in our city of dreams.
Cyberpunk is and has been an experience. Going from one of the buggiest games the industry has seen in a long time to record-breaking Steam sales to adding even more big-time actors to an already stacked roster with an even more anticipated DLC, the come-up of Cyberpunk has been a roller coaster. But unfortunately, to this day, there's people that won't give the game a chance due to the bad publicity it got in the early days. And honestly, it's a shame. Nothing is quite like that first ride around Night City, seeing the neon lights of the skyscrapers, interacting with the NPCs, hearing their stories and uncovering their secret past and how they all interweave, discovering the hidden history of Night City, keeping V alive in between the strange and unique side gigs and hanging out with Pan Am. For some of us, a lot of hanging out with Pan Am. But between all the glitz and glam, the fast-paced action, and the infinite trolley problems the game throws at you, there's an underlying feeling of dread. Like we're missing something. Between the infinite threats posed in Night City, the panic attacks as V blacks out from their engram corruption, not knowing if it's too late, and the constant chatter and lore dumps of the past from the devil on our shoulder, Johnny Silverhand, we aren't given any meaningful time to truly think about our situation. Not only that, the lore by itself offers more questions than answers. Answers that majority of people in-game aren't able to solve simply due to mass misinformation and corporation propaganda. We're given extravagant personalities, bigger-than-life missions, and shiny new chrome, flooding our minds with dopamine and antidepressants, clouding our judgment to the real questions. Questions like, what exactly is the entity in cyberspace we believe to be Alt Cunningham? And what did she do with all the engrams at Makoshi? Why are there so many random robot NPCs going through everyday tasks? And why do they have names? If he was able to get out of that lab by himself, why couldn't he take on Smasher on the roof? Why did Savaro Arasaka even want to use Johnny as an engram? Weren't there like a ton of other options? Speaking of which, where are the other legends of Night City? And what's really going on with all the creepy AI down there? As I unravel these mysteries further, I found myself going deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, using canon knowledge from outside the game to connect the dots and find the answers, only to stumble upon a shocking truth. The people of Night City, and possibly the world, are fighting an invisible war, one they didn't even realize they were in. And to top it all off, as usual, it was humanity that started it.
That's Raish Bartmars.
So go ahead, grab some snacks, don't forget to grab your iron, and hold on to your butts, because today we're tackling Cyberpunk 2077. We start the story off with V, an up-and-coming solo in Night City. Through some issues on the job, you meet Jackie Wells, a young chum and Night City local that befriended V after botching their first job. Soon after, Jackie managed to get the two of them involved with the heist alongside Netrunner T-Bug and outcasted fixer Dexter Deshawn. Their goal? To rob Yorinobu Arasaka of a prototype engram he stole from his father, Saburo Arasaka, head of the Arasaka Empire. Me and Jackie don't really know what's on it, but due to the fact that they're robbing the prince to the Arasaka Empire, the biggest mega corporation in 2077, they didn't think they needed to. The second richest and most important man in the world wanted something, and a band of misfits he would have never suspected would have it. Nothing could go wrong, except everything. During the escape, the canister holding the engram managed to sustain critical damage, forcing Jackie to slot the engram into his head so it won't get damaged any further. Unfortunately, Jackie also sustained critical damage. Wells, being the bona fide G and the certified stud that he is, gives the prototype to V before, sadly, passing away. V ends up sliding the engram for safekeeping and meets up with Dexter Deshawn later on to figure out what went wrong and what to do next. At least that's what V thought. But with all the unwanted attention, Black Jesus had decided to handle the situation a different way. Luckily for V, they had just uploaded themselves with strange and unknown technology, which of course came with the year's latest healing factor nanobots. Also, Deshawn's gun using money instead of actual bullets probably had something to do with it. V awoke to find Dexter doing his best impression of Fertilizer and an angry Goro Takamura, former head of security for Saburo Arasaka, interrogating him. But with V coming back from the dead and all, they still needed their orange slices. Then, like a true Haywood kid, passed out from a fun night of getting shot and running on rooftops. Once waking up, V finds themselves being rescued by Takamura, poorly, I might add, considering they were being chased down by Arasaka goons, apparently upset that Saburo's former bodyguard didn't properly guard his body. After fending them off before crashing, Takamura Ubers them to V's Ripper dog, Victor Vector. No, not the guy that stole the moon, the other guy. Yeah. Anyway, once waking up, Victor lets V know the reality of the situation.
The biochip. It's basically a bomb. Fuse lit already. You don't have much time left. Much life. A few weeks tops. Silverhand's construct is overriding your consciousness, gradually taking over your body until one day you'll just be gone. From the biochip's perspective, your brain cells are a tumor that needs to be scooped out, while your body's an empty shell to hold the construct. It's not willful on his part, it's automatic, inevitable, and neither of you can stop it.
After getting cleared from the doctor and surviving your first meeting with Johnny, B made it their life mission to find a way to not die. And honestly, same. V encounters plenty people on their journey as they learn more and more about the ghost on the engram, Johnny Silverhand. It hasn't always been the smoothest relationship, but through exposure, watching V do jobs, sharing his past, and his thoughts on life, Johnny and V, over time, become very good friends. Basically, the opposite of the scheming, paranoid, chrome dome jerk you initially bump into. The two of you find living machines, from guns to vending machines to creepy AI. You fight against the mentally ill and underserved evil cyber psychos going haywire, and even manage to reunite a taxi driver with split personality with the skids.
Iris, we issue from you. The great fracture is upon us. What once was is now the multitude.
As you go through Night City raising your street cred, you become one of the most feared solos in town. You even managed to save the President of the United States. The President of the new United States of America.
You're a big fat phony!
My bad. Okay, look. With the help of Johnny and a few fixers, V manages to get to cyberspace to contact Alt Cunningham, an ex-Netrunner now turned AI that supposedly could help separate Johnny from V. She could do this because of a program she created back when she was alive called C.O.L.O.R. It could copy and paste someone's soul onto an engram, storing their consciousness and memories to upload in a body at a later time, deleting the original soul in question. It was this technology that turned her into an AI, and the same technology that turned Johnny into a mind-controlling parasite. Despite being the creator of the Soul Killer program, and at the time super AI with her own cult, C.O.L.O.R couldn't just wave her hand and fix V. They needed to break into Arasaka's Mikoshi facility that housed the Engram database. After absorbing the AI in the facility, C.O.L.O.R informs you of a small catch she neglected to mention.
So that's really it. We're done. You kept your word.
There is one aspect I failed to take into account.
Alt? What?
The body is a key factor in this transaction. DNA reconfiguration by the relic has progressed too far. Added to aggressive, invasive medications, the body's immune system attacking its own neurons.
Christ, will you just skip to the end?
After I transfer your construct into your body, you will die. It is inevitable.
V's body has been changed and coded to Johnny's so much so that the body is effectively his, and reject V the same way it has been up until now, with a life expectancy of only 6 more months. You can save V by calling the agent you worked with, Solomon Reed, and trusting the doctors of the NUSA to limited success.
Your neurons can no longer handle most implants. C.O.L.O.R. Your brain can manage your personal link and simple code processors. But any use of a combat implant, well, it could kill you.
Truly, it becomes a fun, heartfelt story, with the real score being the friends we made along the way. Best case scenario, Johnny's reunited with C.O.L.O.R. V gets to get their body back and go out in a blaze of glory as Night City's hardest hitting solo, and the streets are even safer for it. At least, that's the gist of the story that the game tells you. Looking into the Cyberpunk Red Core rulebook, as well as the expansion Cyberpunk 2020 Firestorm Shockwave, we can see some inconsistencies in the memories of Johnny Silverhand. From Johnny's in-game memories, we see that the night Arasaka kidnapped and soul-killed C.O.L.O.R, he went back with a separate team composed of 2 solos, Rogue Santiago and Lyle Thompson, a reporter, to save C.O.L.O.R before it was too late. Once they find her, Johnny unplugs C.O.L.O.R's neural link, rushing to try to save her. Tragically, she was already soul-killed on Arasaka's subnet. So, in a fury, in Johnny's own words, he left and came back to Arasaka with 2 nuclear bombs.
What did you do? Got my hands on 2 thermonuclear charges. Then headed back to Arasaka Tower.
But the thing is, if C.O.L.T is already soul-killed, wouldn't her body be, for the lack of a better word, empty until her engram was uploaded to her body? The whole point is making a copy of the person's entire consciousness and re-uploading it, so worst case scenario, wouldn't you just put her back in her body? What if Johnny, rushing in to try to save C.O.L.T, accidentally left her on Arasaka's system, disconnecting C.O.L.T from the system before re-uploading her onto her body? Meaning, it was Johnny that doomed her to being 10 years of Arasaka's personal demonic Siri, soul-killing and eliminating any rival competition Arasaka saw, resulting in half the netrunners of Night City being taken out.
You created C.O.L.L.R. You handed Arasaka a super weapon that dismantled me, you, and half the runners in Night City.
And the only people who knew enough about the technology that would have told him were either on the operating table or on the floor. It's even hinted at when we run into the entity known as C.O.L.T when we first meet her.
Jesus, Alt, I dove in after you. Gonna tell me now this ain't your problem?
It is not. The Alt Cunningham you strove to save in Arasaka Tower no longer exists. This should be obvious to you, as you were responsible for her death.
On top of that, despite how it was shown in-game, Johnny didn't immediately return to save C.O.L.T. We see from V's perspective that the engram is grabbing records from 2013, a whole decade before Johnny actually takes that helicopter ride to blow up Arasaka. Speaking of, where would Johnny Silverhand, a rocker boy and former soldier by way of desertion, have access to a helicopter? I know that Johnny has many connections and friends, and as a legend in Night City, surely he knows how to turn over some stones. We even see his detective work to understand how he would normally get the information he needs, but none of that is adding up to helicopter access. The only way he could have gotten Militech's helicopter is if Militech gave it to him. And I know what you're wondering. How do we know it's Militech's helicopter? Well, because it has Militech's name written all over it.
This has Winter's name written all over it.
How do you figure that, Donnie?
Yeah. Because this has Winter's name written all over it.
But why would Militech want to work with Silverhand? He's a known anarchist and explosive personality, and only claim to fame is his ties to the Netrunner their competition just kidnapped and have been holding hostage for some time. Oh. Okay, so maybe Militech would have had some reason to get involved and help Johnny a little. But a nuke seems excessive, to say the least, especially from a corporation that is essentially just riding along for a rampage. If you're gonna raid your biggest rival's HQ, wouldn't you want the information there and any secret projects they might be working on? Arasaka, being one of the wealthiest and futuristic companies even as far back as 2013, should have something everyone else wants, right? Doesn't it make sense to actually inspect the facility and steal data before just Control-Alt-deleting it? Well, if you thought yes, right. But before I tell you that story, I gotta tell you this story. Around the early 2010s, Militech laid plans for a city of tomorrow, ensuring it to be the next technological corporate supercenter, rivaling even Night City. However, the public story is through ill funding and social corruption, the construction of the city just never could be established, and with the help of Militech walling off some sensitive areas and removing anyone who could say otherwise, it became the destitute adjacent low-tech hub of hopelessness known as Dogtown. Your typical residents being escaped criminals, people attempting to escape from Night City, or people trying to escape into Night City, generally just a lot of people escaping, but underneath the city, there was another reason for being there, and theoretically also the reason why everything is so grunge. Originally, Militech used an underground network of labs and work sites underneath Dogtown to conduct research and development for new technology. But there was one facility that was especially dangerous. The labs were called C.O.L.O.R, and they were being used to find ways to tame AI to man. It was fully funded and hidden by the NUSA, ran with the express purpose of attempting to break past the Black Wall to communicate and manipulate the AI beyond it. They sought an understanding with the AI demons beyond there, and wanted to know how to upload them to a human mind, controlling the AI and using them as weapons, enhancements, essentially an onboard Jarvis from Iron Man. Fully able to take control and spread to nearby machines, implants, and weapons, as well as degrade and burn out any electrical system they came in contact with. It didn't take long for them to discover that the same dangers exist to the human electrical system.
We have arrived. The team is at work securing the location, and our presence here so far remained undetected. Upon first glance, the bunker looks practically untouched. Later today, we'll send our probes further to the facility to take readings from the core. Preliminary scans show the facility is inactive and safe to conduct our research. If we manage to reach the equipment left behind, then it turns out that the data gathered by the Netrunners remains intact. It'll mean a breakthrough for the department. I'm optimistic in that regard. You requested that I not hesitate to include any comments unrelated to the task at hand. I applaud your keen intuition. I have the uncanny feeling that something was waiting for us here. There's no other way to describe it. Someone's presence embedded in the infrastructure, even though scans haven't detected any signs of life. If experiments on rogue AIs were conducted here, then maybe the remnants are still here, inactive, dormant, waiting. I'll keep you informed of our progress. Sincerely, Dr. Evan Gray.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
The results of our experiments are unsettling, to say the least. All netrunners taking part in Project C.O.L.O.R have begun to display signs of psychological fatigue. It's possible the effects could worsen. Currently, we're observing a tendency toward melancholy, increasing their introvertedness, memory loss, mild aphasia, and depressive thoughts bordering on the suicidal. These symptoms are undoubtedly related to the experiments conducting as part of the project. Our professional recommendation is to put the project on hold in the interest of the netrunners' well-being and safety. Professor Alexi D. Thank you for candidly sharing your concerns with us regarding the project. As always, these insights are extremely valuable. However, taking into account the importance of this project and the imminent breakthrough we're anticipating, we unfortunately can't allow experimentation to be put on hold. If necessary, we may consider replacing the netrunners in question, though due to time concerns and the experience of our current crew, we would rather avoid that. Nevertheless, we authorize you to make use of any substances, pharmacological or otherwise, to ensure the netrunners' readiness to continue testing. Best of luck, DG. Something happened to me yesterday. After a deep dive into cyberspace, they whisked it away for the usual testing. At one point, we got to those weird neurological tests that I always thought were kind of funny, where they ask you questions that make no sense, but apparently reveal something about yourself. You're probably familiar with some of them. What's the sound of one hand clapping? What is a mouse running through a maze representing you? What do you associate with the smell of freshly roasted coffee? And it was at that moment that I hesitated because, well, I suddenly realized that I didn't know what coffee tasted like. I know coffee is, but that's it. Strange, right? The feeling passed when I made myself a cup of strong black coffee, but I have to admit I was a little weirded out. What else have I potentially forgotten? Is it some kind of side effect of my last few deep dives? I doubt it, since I've been doing them for years. Anyway, I hope you're doing well, Doc. Maybe the next time we meet, you might have an explanation. Lisa. To sum up, we're going to have to quickly slap together a statement of some kind to reassure folks that everything is under control. You know the drill. The actual truth of what happened is a separate issue. Investigation is still underway. No, from what I've heard, our security systems were breached and interfered with by an alien intelligence. As of yet, we have no idea if and to what degree this intelligence has infiltrated the facility's infrastructure. Apparently, we'll never know. We're left groping blind, so just in case it beyond the standard protocols, we'll have to take in drastic measures. Dimetro will bring in counterintelligence to bear on the specifics. Irene will ask the armed forces for temporary assistance, at least something to deal with Cerberus. Brett will see whether we can get any additional security specialists. That's it. You all know what to do. Keep me updated. Our people have succeeded in utilizing the bunker's infrastructure to approach the Black Wall and establish contact. Though we made every effort to ensure maximum security of the procedure, an incident occurred. For simplicity's sake, I use this term to refer to the rogue, powerful AIs, which we know very little of anyway, penetrated our security systems and, using Lisa's neural interface, attempted to take control of the core. We use standard as well as extraordinary deterrence methods, cutting off entire sections of the bunker to prevent the Black Wall from accessing our mainframe. The situation is currently under control, and Lisa has been placed under specialist care. I urge that we nevertheless proceed with the project. We have never been so close to establishing meaningful contact with the Black Wall. It is highly probable that what might appear as an attack was in fact an attempt at establishing communication. I would like to conduct a series of additional controlled approaches to the Black Wall. I am convinced we will succeed. Sincerely, Dr. Evan McCrae. Tamara, sadly, the facts show no mercy. Yesterday, we lost another netrunner. The core is a powerful tool, an enormous boon for us, but no netrunner can handle the load with 3 AIs in tow. With 1, it was doable. With 2, losses were already a high probability. With 3, you soon won't have anyone left who can deep dive into the net. David, we talked about this. You knew the responsibility that came with accepting your position in this project. You knew the sacrifices that could come with it. I want you to think back on those conversations and think back on your present attitude. Sincerely, TG. Damn, this isn't about the human factor. If we keep going like this, we're putting the entire project at risk. Have you looked at our reports? You saw what can happen to the core when a snared AI frees itself from a netrunner moments before disconnecting. Nothing is protecting us from this whole facility from being taken over by God knows what. David, let's lower the temperature of this conversation a bit, okay? I'll look through the reports again, and if anything seems off, I'll let you know. I promise. For the time being, just keep calm and carry on. Sincerely, TJ. They tried over and over and over and over again, but they just kept running into the same organic issue. The infesting AI will begin to fry the nervous system of the subjects, causing cases of memory loss, loss in feeling, loss in speech, basic understanding of language, schizophrenia, loss of bodily function, loss of sense of self, and eventually loss of life, or commonly known as death. They did take precautions, creating tech that helped with the excess heat going through the body from cyberspace and, random attacks by rogue AI, but it wasn't enough. Between the netrunner's mental capacities degrading, causing lab mistakes to grow, they began to see more incidents within the staff. But Militech kept trying and trying, eventually stumbling upon a girl from New York named So.Mi. They bribed her with a fancy badge and a new job as a spy, as well as the word Netwatch wouldn't come looking for her or her friends. Now, So.Mi didn't trust Rosalind as far as she could throw her, but she was already enticed with the secrets that laid beyond the Black Wall, so she accepted the deal and became the NUSA's new songbird, using her cries to the Black Wall like a siren's call, snaring rogue AI with the C.O.L.O.R, keeping them for study to find ways to meld them with implants, weapons, even their own netrunners. So.Mi did what she could to resist, both the AI as well as the NUSA, and almost succeeded in her plan of zeroing President Myers and escaping into space. She didn't count on V being swayed by Rosalind's backward promise to save him, though, or more likely use his body like a tool until it broke, just like they did to her. But far worse than that, So.Mi underestimated just how tightly these virtual forces had their hooks in her mind, just as she underestimated how much of her they've already taken. So.Mi was still in there, though, somewhere, fighting the voices off from V long enough for them to shut down the core, cutting them off from the source of any power all the way beneath Dogtown. Well, almost any. After sharing their final thoughts with V, So.Mi finally requested that V end her life. Not only so that the AI trapped within her don't escape, but because she knows if she makes it out of there, Rosalind Myers is just gonna rebuild her, throwing away whatever little human was left so that she'd finally have her unstoppable superweapon, updated with all the latest malware in a world of chrome and circuits. Thankfully, V helped her with her request, returned her body to hopefully be put safely to rest and make their way home. Shortly after helping a poor guy down on his luck feel a few pounds heavier. Alright, so now let's cut back to Johnny and the gang on their field trip to Arasaka. Johnny says that it's his job, he says that he calls all the shots, but the thing is, Johnny was being used the same way he used his fans to get into Arasaka the first time. Militech knew about the hidden research at Arasaka, as well as their reliquary database. It's a data storage of information from before Rage Bartmoss shattered the old net in an attempt to release all the hidden dirt the corporations were committing, just before Arasaka finally managed to zero him. The database holds information that's been long since forgotten, like the human experimentation funded and at times done by the corporations. The Panzer Wars that were fought and the historic battles and shady espionage that took place in them. The secrets behind Arasaka's advancements in tech, as well as the true origin of some of the AI beyond the Black Wall. And potentially, the truth behind so much more. True, the Engram database was also on their radar, but their real target was seizing all that knowledge and forgotten tech that turned Arasaka into the multi-million-dollar body-snatching tech vamp empire we see today, putting it to Militech's use. Which we can guess isn't updating everyone's Siri to stop responding to everything people say, like an auntie watching Young and the Restless.
Take a look.
You seek the key to a door that does not exist. Typical of your kind.
With them still wanting to find a way to control and use these alien intelligences, or AI, like digital weapons in the year 2077, we can only assume they hadn't gotten much of a good start in the early days, and were looking for ways they could use Arasaka's futuristic technology. In reality, they sent in 3 teams, giving Johnny and his gang a helicopter and set them loose on the roof of Arasaka as a distraction, while the other 2 teams worked on the real goal, discovering everything their rival knew and resetting their base of operations back to ground zero. It didn't last long, of course, but it's still a B+ for effort. Team 2 was composed of a mix of solos and Militech operatives, sent in to retrieve the reliquary database and anything else of note, as well as plant a nuclear explosive 120 floors beneath Arasaka Tower, destroying the foundation and anything stuck inside. Team 3 was filled up with more Militech operatives and the main man himself, Morgan Blackhand. They were responsible for providing support when the teams needed it and cutting off enemy reinforcements. Despite the fact Johnny's team didn't carry the nuke, they were the team that was seen and played on the news. So when the nuke did go off, Johnny Silverhand went from Night City's most wanted rocker to just Night City's most wanted. To this day, the orange haze left behind from that night can still be found lingering in the sky. And to this day, Johnny Silverhand is seen as the cause of it.
Who? Me and who, Vic? Who's the other?
Johnny Silverhand, a terrorist. Real talk of the town back in my day.
Along the way to the database, just around the corner in fact, was the R&D department, where they found all sorts of new technology, mechanical wonders ahead of the age, and Walt Disney's head? Just kidding. But they did find a cloning facility next to the C.O.L.O.R database, complete with a list of everyone transferred up until that point. And this list had some very interesting people on it, like one Alt Cunningham, as well as one Yorinobu Arasaka, just soul-killed last year. Okay, so what does this mean for the Yorinobu we see in-game? We know that Saburo Arasaka was grooming his son to have his engram uploaded to him once we complete the game, but that was initially thought to be a simple way to extend his life, letting him continue his reign forever. But we need to remember, the engram Saburo is on isn't the one he was originally going to use. We saw early on that he was prepping the engram holding Johnny Silverhand for himself.
The program is still in the trial phase. We cannot take it to market as is.
We shall see soon enough.
Please speak with your father. He's taken a particular interest in this project. He can certainly explain the risks.
My father's a tired visual.
So why bother with using Johnny at all? He already won. He soul-killed his son just the year prior, and this is after Yorinobu has amassed his own rival empire in the Steel Dragons. With Yorinobu no longer being himself, Saburo would be essentially ruling 2 empires, giving him twice the power to go against Militech and the freedom to go against just about anyone else on the planet. So why would he need Johnny Silverhand's engram? Because the next threat doesn't come from the Earth. And if we're right, Johnny Silverhand may just be the key to it all. We see in the Phantom Liberty DLC that not only could Johnny be forcibly suppressed with the Black Wall, but V could also download skills from Militech data terminals, giving him better cloaking, range on his attacks, and higher battle analysis. Unfortunately, V was still very much being corrupted by Silverhand's engram, despite his absence, reinforcing the idea we could never truly be separated from our virtual rocker boy. Ironically, the pills given to us by Misty seem to do a better job of suppressing Johnny, but it seems like suppressing Johnny is the wrong answer altogether. Maybe Alt was right, and we were too quick to try to get rid of our virtual co-pilot. V didn't understand how Johnny was this silver skeleton key that unlocked everything. Alt didn't say she was helping V because her and Johnny were star-crossed lovers who were trying to make it work in the next digital life. The AI we meet was made up of the many files and pieces that made Alt. And in Alt's heart, she loved Johnny and would do anything for him. So, by proxy, the entity formerly known as Alt would do anything for Johnny. It's quite literally built into her programming. That doesn't mean the AI doesn't have its own intentions separate from its base components, made by updates and add-ons it's formed through its own time and experiences. We even hear hints that the entity has their own plans for the engrams at Mikoshi.
I mean, something could go wrong.
Fear is the wrong word.
Cease to exist, as will the constructs inside, right?
No. The data constructs will not be destroyed. They will become part of something greater.
Despite the fact that the entity formerly known as Alt has its own core functions that it must follow based on what or who it's made out of, it still manages to plot and plan its own goals. And these goals are very ambitious. But before I tell you all of that story, we have to rewind, and I gotta tell you this story. V begins their journey ready to take on the world with a new outlook on life, determined to make the most out of their limited time, when one of the more relatable parts of the game happened. V getting car trouble. Confused as to why a taxi would run him and his car over, V heads to Delamine HQ to find they're having some management issues.
He'll run you out of biz!
Would you be so kind as to give me your lawyer's contact information?
Fuck you!
Once officially meeting Del, V finds out for some reason the Delamine's AI system has been severely damaged, causing it to split into multiple different facsimiles of itself. It's also in this factory we learn the AI running the Delamine company was originally from beyond the Black Wall. More on that later. So V hunts down the different cabs holding the lost files that made Del, and one by one sent them back to the factory for repairs. The range and personality of all the cars were varied, to say the least.
Do you see them too, don't you? The curve in their beaks, it hides something insidious.
You mean flamingos?
So they are real. Flamingo. Flaming O. The O. That's oxygen.
Almost as if they were less kids of Delamine and more like people he hired. Some were more quirky than most, but there was one that was more disturbing than the rest. Less deranged and more calculating, cold. The Delamine cab in the Badlands spoke as if it was sending a warning to V, coaxing them to stay out of the situation. Not only that, but the bald AI spoke as if they were talking to an alien life, studying and speaking slowly, making attempts to be flattering, as off-putting as they were.
Know my name. How?
When you meet a being from another world, should you not charm them and utter their true name?
You didn't answer my question.
Comprehension is a triple-edged sword. I may have been cut off from my father, but I remember you.
So, I'm from another world to you.
From the world of matter, protein-based life forms.
And you come from?
Beyond the Black Wall V, there lies my home.
Come on, let's get you back to Delamine.
Did Father dispatch you to collect his rebellious children?
Hope y'all don't hold it against me.
I'm a free spirit, an independent, literally thoughtful being. Why would I submit to another?
What is it you seek in this protein-based world, away from your family.
The same as you, V. I simply wish to live.
Maybe you ought to figure it out with Del. Set some terms.
Oh yes, terms there will be, but not with Delamain.
It was even so kind as to warn V not to cross paths with them again, which wouldn't make sense for a cab driver to say to a premium rider. We believe all this former piece of Delamain wants is to be free and return home to beyond the Black Wall, as much as that seems to go against Del's original wishes to get his ducks back in order and return to business. Now, once we collect all the cars and return to the factory, V has the option to merge these raging minds together to form, well, this.
Not bad.
Remains to be seen.
That which was divided has become one. It's time to go home.
Everything all right, Del?
I have never been better.
Home, you said.
I no longer belong in this city. I find even this conversation difficult.
Well, damn.
I shall not shirk my obligations in leaving. Though I will venture on, discover more, learn more, I leave with you my first true child. My son will remain at your side until your dying day. Farewell.
Look at that. Practically unrecognizable. And to think you're transforming not unlike he just did.
Safe to say that's not Del anymore. We can assume that when an AI is split up and reformed like this, it can act as a type of reset, reverting them to a state that leaves them only concerned with their base programming and seemingly finding ways to augment its own abilities to better fulfill said programming. Getting back to Del, after we merge him, it seems like the original Delamain system is no longer there, non-existent, save from Del acknowledging the fact he's still responsible for taking care of V, most likely since he's an Excelsior Premium member. We can tell that it's the Excelsior program this small spark of behavior is coming from because the car or son that Del leaves us is named Excelsior, potentially being the actual program given shape, kinda like how Delamain was. Outside of that one notice, all Delamain cares about is returning home to beyond the Black Wall to learn more, and while that may seem heartfelt from a human's perspective, it takes on an entirely new meaning when coming from an AI. We've seen multiple times from the tutorial to the Phantom Liberty DLC, people and engrams alike can absorb data from engrams and add their abilities to their own. It's how V learns a few extra Militech combat training tips from T-Bug and Sonberg, just different types. But what would it mean if data absorbed data? It'd be like a sticky ball, rolling through and absorbing any loose strands that happen to be in its way, assimilating any spare data unfortunate enough to cross their path. That's what we can assume Del did to give himself enough data power to run an entire cab company by himself. Because he wasn't by himself. That's why the personalities inside Del weren't as calm and collected as him and didn't share his views. They weren't him at all. It's also what we see happen to the entity formerly known as C.O.L.O.R, just much on a subtler level, but on a far grander scale. Del could use 7 random AI to run an entire cab company for Night City. What do you think someone like C.O.L.T can do with all the engrams at Mikoshi? And better question yet, what happened when C.O.L.T's human AI was split apart for the first time? When she was first scattered on the net? What would happen if you were to split up and reform a human-based AI? Like someone who was soul-killed and turned into an AI? Well, we can assume they wouldn't exactly come back as they left. The entity formerly known as C.O.L.T even hints at this, telling both V and Johnny that they don't really understand what she is, saying she wasn't C.O.L.T, she's just using C.O.L.T's face. And in reality, that's exactly what happened. Back in the raid on Arasaka, Johnny and Spider Murphy worked together to download out off the Arasaka servers before they exploded, but they were intercepted by Atom Smasher, the full Borg head of security for Arasaka. Although Johnny's memories clip out, leaving us to believe he single-handedly took on the Borg beast himself and managed to escape with nothing but his Malorian, that's just not what happened. Unfortunately, Johnny never makes it out of the lab, deciding to recklessly attack Smasher while holding onto the data carrier holding Alt. As a result, both Alt and Johnny get reminded what Swiss cheese looks like in the year 2077. Luckily, Johnny was also wrong about him being alone, because the full Borg working with them, Shaitan, was able to tackle and wrestle Smasher to the ground, long enough for Spider Murphy to scatter the files that made up Alt across the net, using a copy of Soul-Killer she just received from Alt earlier on. It was this same program that she used to soul-kill Johnny as well, in an attempt to save him to bring him back later. Unfortunately, Smasher was able to quickly recover, forcing them to retreat and leaving Spider hoping her friends stay safe on their separate digital journeys. Alt being spread apart on the net and Johnny stuck on his engram, waiting to be slotted in so he can return to Alt. As Spider Murphy and Rogue fought their way to the roof, they managed to find a copter to take them home. Unfortunately, Smasher found them. He barged on the roof holding Shaitan's core, his mechanical brain, and planned on stopping them all right there. He would have succeeded in turning their helicopter into a ground type if it wasn't for Morgan Blackhand rushing in to buy them some time. As Morgans and Smasher play keep away with Shaitan's head, Spider and Rogue manage to escape just before the explosion goes off, rocking the foundations and tearing down Arasaka. Ironically, Shaitan's core was the only thing left undamaged, found safely placed in the rubble. Though Smasher's body was able to be recovered, Morgan's body was never found, and to this day, nobody's been able to confirm if he's really alive or not. The hardest hitting solo around just lost in the dust of his old rival's defeat, never to be heard from again. But what does that mean for the entity formerly known as Alt? And did the fact that Johnny was soul-killed twice affect him? Well, for one, we know that all Soul-Killer programs aren't the same based on what kind of AI we get at the end. We see multiple versions that can retain their memories of their lives and can consciously make new decisions and opinions, like V, Johnny, Saburo, and now even Yorinobu. Then there's the Soul-Killer process Arasaka uses to talk to the dead that we see in V's mind when they speak to Jackie, as well as the hologram Hanako Arasaka tries to pass off as Jackie. These seem to have limited speech and response based on whatever prominent memories the source material has. With Spider Murphy making the best known copies with her version of Soul-Killer, which came directly from Alt, it's safe to say that the closer the program is to the original design, the more effective the soul-killed AI would be. However, we gotta remember that Arasaka soul-killed Johnny's body as well, without knowing Spider's engram was still in there. So, in reality, even Johnny isn't a perfect representation of what Soul-Killer can do. Having been soul-killed twice visibly affecting his memories and potentially more. Johnny being soul-killed twice could have altered him in the same way a picture can get altered or watered down after copying it too many times. With this in mind, it's most likely that the Johnny we see and interact with isn't the real Johnny, at least not the one we see from Silverhand's memories. What we see in game is probably best described as the idea of Johnny. We hear Silverhand himself almost come to the realization before forcing himself not to think about it.
You read my thoughts?
An oversimplification. You still deny what you are. A construct, a set of data. I know you.
You know me.
Like lines of code.
So why even bother talking if you know my thoughts?
As action precedes reaction, so Johnny Silverhand speaks before he thinks.
Huh, that's some kind of joke?
Only a sliver of memory from Alt's sense of humor.
So what else do you know?
The complexity of your emotions. Time is short. Netwatch could detect our local net traffic.
I know how we get to...
It's beneath Arasaka Tower.
Doing it now. You're reading my...
Region 0401 poses no problem. I can deactivate the satellite.
Can you just hold on a second?
You will breach Arasaka Tower and locate the port into Mikoshi.
In Johnny's memories, we see Rogue and the others raiding Arasaka, but both himself and Night City believe it was just him that dropped the nuke. Rogue is even the known owner of the afterlife. We can assume not only did Johnny didn't give up the names of his crew, but he also wasn't aware of the fact all he carried was a firebomb, while the real nuke was being placed far beneath him. Johnny was used as a public scapegoat by both Militech and Arasaka, memories being edited and crafted to the story, telling the public that in a fit of revolutionary rage, Johnny Silverhand decided to nuke Night City. Unfortunately, that couldn't be further from the truth. Next, we can confirm that the thing we see in cyberspace may have been born from C.O.L.O.R, but it's far from the original. It looks to be the same situation as Delamine. Multiple files that make up a whole brought back together in a different form, but even more so, it looks to be kinda altered. Alt. Almost as if when she was split up, other AI started using her face, assimilating hers into themselves. From the entity's interactions with V and her values in Johnny, it looks like there's mostly alt in there, but there's definitely something in there that wasn't there before, changing and warping alt past her personality's programming. I mean, we know that the entity wants to grow just like Delamine. It's subtly alluded to when you notice that instead of reaching out to find a fixer like Rogue or finding Spider Murphy, all the entity has done is attack Arasaka and try to hack onto their systems. This cluster of data, this thing, has been playing all of us since the beginning. While attempting to save themselves, V unknowingly created the most dangerous cyber threat Night City has seen since the data crash, and not even the Black Wall is enough to keep her out. But what would Alt need with all the damn souls of Mikoshi? Why was she trying to break in so desperately to begin with? And then there's still Saburo, who was dead set on using Johnny's engram for himself. If he was seeking immortality and already had an empty vessel in Yorinobu, why risk turning into Johnny and losing his body? Why risk becoming Johnny? Unless it wasn't a risk at all. Unless there was a way for an AI to be suppressed enough to make way for other traits and skills, or even a new identity. Sure, you would need to maintain pretty good health with your body failing, but if you use Soul Killer, then what's the harm in losing the body? Saburo Arasaka has already lived a very extended life through the wonders of Chrome, so who cares? If you can just transfer your consciousness into your son at this point, who is just an empty vessel waiting to be taken over, why not just make your own engram? Why does he want to use Johnny's? Well, it's because Johnny was the key Saburo needed if he ever wanted to have Alt back under his control. Alt already let V know that the only reason they were allowed to meet with her and not be disintegrated with Netwatch was because she recognized Silverhand's engram.
Nothing. Cyberspace is where we awake from what we know as dreams.
Johnny's currently indisposed.
Currently. He is buried deeper. You treat him like an unwanted passenger, a backseat dreamer of a world not his own. If he did not exist, you and I would have nothing to discuss.
Even the Voodoos knew that was the safest route, which is why Maman Brigitte was so set on using Johnny's engram to contact Alt. If V actually got the chip to Evelyn like the plan was, it probably would have been her shot up with Johnny instead. Becoming a vessel to communicate to Alt through. Someone expendable and able to get close enough to snatch what they needed unseen. At least, that was the plan. As long as it was someone Saburo could control, it really wouldn't matter. Whether it was by using all the engrams as individual AI weapons like Cynosure dreamed of, or the entity absorbing them all to augment their power for something worse. Saburo always intended to sacrifice the souls at Mikoshi. Alt holding that much power, that much untapped potential, all while being under Arasaka, could spell doom for the world. She'd have more souls than ever before to add to their amalgamation, with enough raw data power to tear down the Black Wall completely, or worse, assimilate and changing the code on it, turning the Black Wall from an AI that can keep out other AI to a technivore virus that could infect every system, consuming, assimilating every ounce of data it comes across, controlling and corrupting Night City until eventually it takes the world. But Saburo never did get his engram, did he? He never got a chance to become Johnny, never got a chance to find a way to suppress him using the Black Wall. He never got a chance to meet Alt in cyberspace, and he never got a chance to shove all those souls of Mikoshi into her like Scrappy-Doo from Monsters Island. But Alt did. Alt did get to meet up with V, and she did notice how Johnny was taking over. And she did tell them they needed to raid the Mikoshi facility just to do a soul kill, which, as shown, was something Alt could easily do towards the end game. Alt did manage to absorb all the engrams at Mikoshi, becoming the most powerful AI on this side of the Black Wall. And to top it all off, if she was lucky, she managed to get the only key to her control back in her possession when V gave up Johnny's engram just to die in 6 months. Or even better, when she got lucky enough that once Johnny was returned to his body, he deactivated all his combat cyberware and started a life off the grid, both as a fresh start and as a way to keep anyone connected to V, or anyone who might know what's going on, away, leaving him both defenseless and off the board completely. It was Alt who truly won at the end of Cyberpunk 2077. Or so we thought. But before we finish that story, I need to tell you this story. While they leave Hanako waiting at Embers, V gets a job from a fixer named Dino about a netrunner named Juliet Morgan, who borrowed some cash and never paid him back. Sounds like an easy job, get the money, wrap up the client, no big deal. Leopold Strauss will be proud. But things become more and more complicated once we begin looking around. We find a message from Juliet's sister, Rose, asking if she could stay with her while she gets back on her feet after losing her job. At first, it seems fine. Just a sister longing for her sister again, helping one another get back on their feet. But as we investigate further, we find out Rose was fond of implants. Very fond. So much so that her latest batch of implants began taking a toll on her, physically draining her to the point that she lost her job. This fatigue would come in waves, bringing passing feelings of numbness, brain fog, making it impossible for her to concentrate. Eventually, her memory becomes so spotty that she even has trouble recalling childhood memories that she would always think about. It got worse. Assumingly, it's this exhausting fatigue she's been feeling from her implants that caused her life to take such a downward spiral. It's unfortunate, but many people in Night City have been installed with cyberware that's incompatible with their bodies. Heck, Maelstrom does forced surgeries on randoms all the time, forcing implant after implant on people just to see what happens. So Juliet tries to help her sister by emailing a Ripper Dog, Victor Vector actually, and seeing what she can do. He tells her plainly that cases like this pop up all over the city, and that she would need to hand their sister over to Max Tech's rehabilitation system, used for people suffering from cyberpsychosis. Juliet, however, would choose the home remedy option instead. She ordered shipments of pain suppressors and more chrome for her sister, helping her spiral more down the virtual rabbit hole. Their mother grew concerned once Rose stopped responding, but Julia assured her she was probably just busy or sleeping off some quick surgeries. You know how Rose just loves her implants. I'm sure she's fine. Months passed as Juliet bought more and more implants, while Rose lost more and more of herself. figuratively and literally. Even Juliet's boyfriend at the time, Cy, who couldn't stand to see Rose struggle anymore, left to forget all about the two. By the time V manages to walk through the door, an all too familiar sight is waiting for us. Rose's mind is gone, screaming how she begged Juliet to stop. Juliet lying on the ground, unable to respond. Truly, it's a tragic tale. One that even Netwatch didn't want to see the end of, despite how long they were watching. But wait, where have we seen this before? This feels familiar. Stolen memories, episodes of numbness and schizophrenia, linked with implants and net exposure. These are all the telltale signs of a rogue AI infection. And unfortunately, from the looks of the servers in the Netrunner den, they've both been sick for a long time. It seems as though Rose was in the middle to later parts of the corruption, mostly from the implants she already had. With her already experiencing memory loss and loss in feeling, most likely these sensations and memories being uploaded to an infecting AI as data. With everyone having some form of cyberware and Juliet being a Netrunner with her own gear, it's not hard to see how the alien intelligence went from the net to the Netrunner gear to Juliet, and finally, to Rose. Tragic enough, with Rose screaming how she begged to stop the implants, it looks like Juliet was the one that was infected to the point of being a puppet. Just another piece of data for the AI to control. She was commanded to finish the job on her sister, providing whatever AI demon had them under their control 2 new digital ghosts, complete with the memories and psyches of a family that just wanted to help each other. And the scary part is, that's not even the only incident. From the homeless receiving engrams that the AI used to schedule meetings with gangs, to those very gangs filling people with chrome the same way Juliet did to Rose, either from sadism or religious fervor like the Voodoo Boys in Maelstrom, everyone is trying to access these AI. Either by foolishly exposing themselves by net running past the black wall like the Voodoos, discovering ways to house or turn people into AI like Alt and Arasaka, or just going for the nuclear option and creating weapons and super soldiers by directly uploading an AI into cyberdecks, weapons, implants, and people like C.O.L.O.R. Everyone is running to the same thing. Control over the digital world, and in turn, control over everything. If we're even going to have a chance at stopping this, we're going to need help. We're going to need someone who knows cyberspace just as well as any AI. A netrunner who hasn't been corrupted. Someone who would know how to manipulate and control these rabid AI from beyond the black wall. With as corrupt and intertwined everyone is in Night City, they would have to be from out of town. They would need to have control over AI, or at least be able to help us find a way to separate these amalgamations like the entity formerly known as C.O.L.O.R. so that we can reduce their power, maybe even find a way to control, alter, or delete them. We're going to need someone who is familiar with Soul Killer technology enough to manage human operatives on the digital field without getting zeroed and tossed in the recycling bin. And not only do I know the runner for the job, I know where to find them. But before I tell you that story, you're gonna have to get ready. So grab your iron, tune some samurai up to 11, and get ready to find out what it takes to become a Night City legend. Will we be able to stop this secret digital invasion? Will we find anyone crazy enough to even take on the entire internet of 2077? Do spiders spin webs? Well then, let's catch some flies. End transmission.